running game is not your focal point. What is? If you're in charge of personnel, what are you doing this offseason?
I'm investing 80% of my resources into the offensive line, and I'm finding a wide receiver who you think can consistently be, your number 3. I'm bringing back Gerald Everett. You're doing a hard evaluation of D. Eskridge and what he is going to be able to provide you on a week-to-week basis, assuming good health in 2022. You have to make some really tough decisions, particularly when it comes to Bobby Wagner. Are you bringing him back, or are you finding a way out of that contract, or trading him? You're not going to trade the full contract, but what are you going to do there? But to me, as long as Russell Wilson is the quarterback of this team, a vast majority of the investment has to be on the offensive line. We're yet to see that for the entirety of his career. So when we're talking about, gripes of Russell Wilson, I do think that one is fairly justified. They're like the bottom, quarter, if not deeper down the list in terms of, in the league in terms of spending annually on the offensive line. So that to me is priority 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for as long as Russell Wilson remains your quarterback.
Well, so you looking at, I don't want to get too deep into the offensive line, but do you think they need 5 new players there? I mean, it seems like while it's not been the strength of this team, I don't know that I've watched it throughout this entire year and said they were just abysmal. I don't know whether I would need a wholesale change there.
Well, you might, because you look at Brand Shell's out of a contract. Why can't I think of Dwayne Brown's out of a contract this year.
Yep.
You have to find a center at some point that you want long term, unless you think that Ethan Posages deserves the job. So it's not necessarily that out of guys haven't played well enough, but just contracts are up. So you got to figure that out. Period. Then I was going to say, just finishing up before, getting DJ Reed back is a priority. I mean, he's been fantastic this year, and really his 2 years in Seattle couldn't have gone any better. He's been one of the sneakiest, best signings of John Schneider's tenure.
Yeah.
He's been tremendous. They got him for free, and he's been a bona fide starter for them. So that's sort of the real big picture look at where.
So it's interesting, kind of looking through that. While I don't disagree necessarily that you need to rework and put some actual resources into the offensive line, I would forget about the wide receiver thing. It's a waste of time and money, because you left out a couple of things that I see as significant, major priorities for them. One is figuring out what you're going to do with Quandre Diggs. You've already spent money at the other safety position. Are you going to spend it at free safety as well? And then 2, the biggest hole on this team, to me, by far, is what they have at defensive end, and in terms of defensive linemen that are multiple. I think that is, if there's one issue with the Seahawks, it's that more than anything else.
Yeah, you make great points. I think, again, it goes back to their off-season to-do list is lengthy and immense. And, I mean, it's an annual conversation that we have of our defensive line, pass rush, pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. And you thought maybe for the end of last season, that second half of the year where they were so good, that maybe some of those issues were remedied. And that's just not the case. And I think it's disappointing that Alton Robinson only has 1 sack this year. Really felt like, he was a diamond in the rough that they found a year ago. And it doesn't seem like that's the case. Now, Rasheem Green has come on late. Potentially he's a piece moving forward. He's got 6.5 sacks this year, a career high for him. We talked about Darrell Taylor and how we think he's a cornerstone piece moving forward. But you're right. You need more there. It's offensive line, defensive line. You got to win in the trenches to win football games. Otherwise, it's going to be real hard on the rest of your roster. And I agree on Quandre Diggs, and where you can say, hey, they probably won a game of chicken against Dwayne Brown of not having to cede to his wishes and give him the big money extension. Well, they're probably regretting not spending that money on Quandre Diggs because he got more expensive this year. And so what is that going to do for the odds you're able to keep him in Seattle? I agree with you. That's a huge priority.